In this lecture, we'll go over the dynamic light gizmo. The dynamic light gizmo allows creators to add dynamic lighting effects such as moving and changing lights in your scenes. Some common use cases include the enhancement of the atmosphere and highlighting of important areas and objects in your world. To place a dynamic gizmo in your world, simply go to Build and Gizmos and then find the dynamic light gizmo. Then you can drag and drop it into your world. You can see that as soon as it's dropped into the world, the baking takes effect. Or I should say, I guess live or dynamic lighting is taking effect. If we look in the properties panel on the right, we can see that we could toggle the light on and off. We can change the light from a point light to a spotlight. A spotlight will disperse light in a particular direction denoted by the arrow. So if I point this down and bring it slightly more up, and let's do intensity of 5, we can see how the spotlight focuses light in a single specific area. Let's do spread or something like 90 potentially. There we go. So we can see this acts sort of more like a spotlight that you'd expect. But let's bring this back to a point light and let's bring down the intensity back to 1. So yeah, we've got other color properties, red, green, and blue. We'll change that to 0, change this one to 0. We can see it takes effect immediately. We can also change these values at runtime dynamically. This is another benefit of dynamic light. It's worth noting that there are limitations to dynamic lights, such as the number of dynamic lights that you can have in your world and their impact on performance. If you're looking to light up a particular section with lights that aren't going to change, I highly recommend using static lights as opposed to dynamic lights. But just for the interest of dynamic lights, I have created a quick script and added a few nodes to the scene. Now let's see what happens if I drop this script and then enable also start simulation on preview entry and then just jump into the world. There we go. Actually, it's probably better or easier visible in edit mode. We can see that the light begins to traverse between the nodes and lights up the area as it traverses each part. There we go. We can see it taking effect in play mode as well. To see a bit better, I am going to increase the intensity to something like 5. And let's do some extreme color like this teal or cyan color. So you can see the dynamic light moving in the scene and lighting up the scene as it moves between the nodes. So there you go. That is the benefit of the dynamic light. In regard to the properties that it has, we've got obviously enabled and disabled the light type that we went over, the color, the intensity, of which you configure so that the strength of the light, and then the fall of distance specifies the decline in light intensity with distance. So having a very small fall off, let me just reset that and stop the world simulation. Having a very small fall off, like 0, actually, yeah, I don't have it at 0. Having something like 1, we can see the light fall off is almost immediate. It's actually hard to see. Let's do something like 5. There we go. So we can see the light fall off at 5, and then, let's bring this back. And then the light fall off at 10. Quite a difference. So you can play around with these two values and see what works best for your scene. Again, try to minimize the number of dynamic lights in your world where possible, because they do impact performance. And I believe that is everything to cover with dynamic lights beyond the scripting API, which lets you change these values at runtime. But we will be covering scripting at a later section. So that is all there is for dynamic lights.